Assalamu alaikum. In the words of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, an ambulance rushes a wounded child to a hospital. A hungry family receives a warm meal. A battered woman finds free shelter. In scenes of human suffering around the world, hope comes thanks to volunteers who give their time, skills, and resources to others in need. When an earthquake destroys homes, volunteers prove that human solidarity is shatterproof. When looters aim for cultural property, volunteers safeguard community treasures. When development is lagging, volunteers help enable people to lift themselves out of poverty. I'm Taishan Amir, and this is the Fourth Estate. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies (IFRC) is the world's largest humanitarian organization, providing assistance without discrimination as to nationality, race, religious beliefs, class, or political opinion. Since 2009, the Maldivian Red Crescent MRC has been working as a national society here in the Maldives, becoming a full-fledged member of the ICRC movement in 2011. On tonight's show, we are focusing on the work they do at MRC. To discuss the organization's work, I have here with me tonight Ibrahim Fawaz, who is the Organizational Development Manager, and Musliha Hassan, the Resource Mobilization Officer at MRC. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To start off, can you explain the mandate of your MRC movement?
Thank you very much, Jasham, for having us in this show. It is always a pleasure for us when we get opportunities to inform the viewers and the broader community of the Maldives about the work that we do and how we being part of the community in providing service. In this role, the media plays a very strong role, and therefore we are very grateful for you for giving us this opportunity. As you have highlighted in your introduction just now, the Maldivian Red Crescent was formulated in 2009. It was actually formed on the 16th of August 2009, is mandated by the Maldivian Red Crescent law. The Maldivian Red Crescent law actually mandates the Maldivian Red Crescent to support the Maldivian communities in times of disaster and to alleviate suffering and with complete impartiality and making no discrimination. This is our mandate of the National Society. We are also governed by, as you have rightfully mentioned in your introduction, we are part of the International Red Cross Red Crescent movement. There are 189 national societies around the globe with over 97 million volunteers within this movement, and all these volunteers and the national societies provide humanitarian services. And as you mentioned in your introduction, we are part of that family of national societies, and we follow the same principles that the national societies follow, which include humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, unity, and universality. In addition to that, I think an introduction or a brief overview of Maldivian Red Crescent cannot be complete without also highlighting on the actual activities that we do. Currently, we are working under our 4-year strategy, which comes to an end towards next year. And the strategy focuses on 4 main areas of intervention. The first one being disaster management and disaster preparedness. So it's about how much we are prepared for local emergencies or nationwide emergencies, and what are the things that we can do before these kind of events happen. The second part is about health and social care. So it's about promoting healthy lifestyles. It's about creating awareness within our communities about epidemics and pandemics. And the third area is about our youth, how we engage with our youth and what are the issues that the youth faces, and how we can, as a national society, be supportive to that role. The fourth area is a little bit internal in terms of organizational development. As you can imagine, it's a national society which is very new, so we are in the process of establishing our branches and internal development and capacity building. It's a very unique kind of organization in the Maldives.
Now, being a national society with over 10 branches across the country, you have a considerable outreach in the Maldives. So, how do you manage your structure? I mean, how do you run your organization across these branches?
Yes, Maldivian Red Crescent has currently 10 branches across the country, but we are mandated to operate to deliver humanitarian services across the entire territory of the Maldives. Branch development is done phase by phase. So right now we have 10 branches, but we still deliver through the branch to nearby atolls. A branch is in an atoll and a unit is at the island level. We have 20 units in 20 islands and branches in 10 atolls. Program implementation is done through volunteers at the community level, implementation and delivery of services. The headquarters based in Malé is for technical support, providing technical support. If you look at our structure, number of volunteers compared to staff, we have about 40 staff versus close to 4,000 volunteers and also close to 500 members. So we are community driven, community involved, community participation is there, and we deliver our services to them.
What are some of MRC's landmark initiatives so far?
Maldivian Red Crescent is just 5 years old. We were formed after the tsunami in 2009, like you mentioned earlier. And through the development and formation of MRC, within the past 5 years, some of the significant landmark achievements, as we say, would be the recent water crisis in Malé, where Maldivian Red Crescent played a key role in delivering the services to the affected population in Malé. And prior to that, even during the dengue outbreak that affected the Maldives entire nation, in 2011-12, we played a key role with the health ministry and other relevant organizations in advocacy and also actively participating in cleaning and everything.
Now, are there any programs or initiatives underway as we speak?
Of course, there are many in the area of health and social care, in the area of disaster management. There are activities that are happening right now as we speak in our communities as well. For example, I believe it's this week or probably next week. We'll be initiating what we call the vulnerability and capacity assessment. It's a training to our volunteers and staff on how to identify issues at the community level, and therefore once you identify these issues, how to actually address these community problems and identify ways in which these vulnerabilities can be made into more capacities, into more beneficial to the community. Of course, being a humanitarian organization, one aspect of that is also being prepared for emergency situations or situations of disasters, and therefore there is considerable effort that is being done to build capacity, especially within the islands, within our 10 branches, in terms of being prepared for community level disasters. Now, this can be things as that can affect the entire country, entire island or part of the island. This could be tidal sea surges, or this could be flooding due to rain, these kind of incidents. So there is this kind of activities that is being done as well. I'm sure you would have heard about our support service that is being provided initially right now in Malé, where it's a transportation service to people in terms of moving and lifting to hospitals and healthcare facilities. So there are many activities that are happening currently. Right now, as the year ends, we are very much also focusing on our annual planning for the next 2 years. Also, at the branch level, what are the activities that we'll be conducting and how these activities will be organized in the next 2 years. We're also currently focusing on our next strategy in terms of from 2015 and beyond. This is a discussion that involves or that would be done with participation of all our volunteers and our members at the community level.
The MRC has been noted for its substantial role in the wake of the tsunami in 2004. And the most prominent efforts is, I think, as you mentioned, as of recent, the water crisis in the capital, Male. Now, what challenges did you or do you still face in carrying out the work you do at MRC?
Just to highlight on this fact, there is, I would say, a misunderstanding in the fact that the Maldivian Red Crescent was part of the operation that was done in the Maldives during the tsunami. Actually, the Maldivian Red Crescent formed after the tsunami of 2004. But of course, there was a huge a group of national societies from the Red Cross Red Crescent movement that was engaged in the Maldives in providing assistance to our communities, for which we are very grateful. And I think that laid also a foundation for for people to be aware about the need of a national society of such a nature in the country. The tsunami itself, although Maldivian Red Crescent wasn't involved in the tsunami by itself, had a huge impact in the national society in terms of how it formed and how it is being driven. Now, you mentioned about the challenges from the work that we do. Of course, there are challenges. The national society or a national society of this nature is very unique, especially in the context of Maldives. We are not really an NGO. We're not really a government body. We are an auxiliary, what we call an auxiliary to the public authorities in times of humanitarian need. That means is we support the public authorities in times of humanitarian need, but with complete impartiality and independence. It's a very important function of the national society for our public in general to be aware of. I think also one of the challenges of the work that we do is this idea that Maldivian Red Crescent and our communities are two different entities, which is not really the case. The Maldivian Red Crescent is the community, actually. So Mustia was earlier talking about our units at the island level. If you look at our islands, these are the people who benefit from the Maldivian Red Crescent, but it is also within them that their governing bodies come as well. So they decide on their own activities. So really, in a way, you can say that the community and the Maldivian Red Crescent are one, which is also a little bit unique to other maybe organizations that function in the country. So therefore, the understanding that needs to arise within the people is something that is a bit of a challenge for us, which is why we are grateful for these kind of opportunities to create awareness among the general public.
Like Fawaz spoke, we have a lot of challenges, especially taking into consideration how young we are. We are just 5 years old. And one of the major challenges is that right now the Maldivian Red Crescent is very much dependent on the movement's funding from partner national societies and the Federation. So what we want to achieve is a national society that is autonomous and independent, financially as well as operational wise. So with the community support from the government authorities and also with the private sector, we need everybody's support to make this happen, because this is our national society. This is an opportunity for us to deliver these services to address to the community's needs, and for that matter, it's a very collaborative process. and the concept of fundraising and corporate social responsibility is also relatively new in the country. So we focus on that area of raising awareness on the importance of community work and the support that we need from everybody in order to make this functional and to reduce the dependency on other people, because during an emergency we never know where the funds might come, so it's best to be prepared ahead with everyone's support.
Now, as with any other organization or NGO or a national society, let's say, the perennial question is, do you get the cooperation you need from the authorities?
Maldives Red Crescent is auxiliary to the public authorities in the area of a humanitarian field. We are mandated by law to be an auxiliary to the public, and the public authorities also work with us during emergencies and when providing humanitarian assistance to the communities, to vulnerable people. So, and we work very closely with the authorities, for example, the National Disaster Management Center, even during the water crisis recently, and the Health Ministry, the MNDF, Police, and Ministry of Education. We work very closely. We cannot work with the government is also providing a service to the people, and we are addressing the needs of the communities.
We're in conversation with National Society Maldives Red Crescent. We'll take a short break now and return in a few minutes.
Neutro Special Crackers eta bike itbar hoda pave. Varam mir. Neutro Special Crackers ki packet gagin adada biskode kuleve agiya miru biskode. Warak kamada biskode. Binda binda kala Neutro Special Crackers. Lonomed tomato mirhuk avapi jassa.
Miru king garlic chili sauce.
Mirko furihamako kaleveni miso surege.
Miru king tomato sauce.
Kumbeko me sauce kamakulude. Hama rangadi.
Miru king chili sauce.
Sauce veggia rahe besunje.
Miru king fried chicken chili sauce. Enjoy the great taste.
King tomato sauce.
Imported and marketed by Miami Traders. Phone 331-8850.
Sena, kuba sale tane monita.
Ade kon sale miharos red wave ngapari enhas rupiya ge wefari 70 rupiya kolle.
Enhas rupiya ge wefari red wave komenda kadiyas. Hahe ge badal ga 70 rupiya waanata ti kiya.
Mari hamba red wave ngapari emi hom vikauga MMS vikanama takati ga gobodo ge ekak was nure.
Eden hama sate eka ga waanata.
Enhas rupiya ge wefari 70 rupiya kolluma red wave majidi maga.
Red wave mart roshani maga.
Red wave plaza sayid platform maga adi red wave mall majidi maga wadagi ti baga jeevat 30 rupiya jama kolla.
Yada.
Baby like Anika sandwich. 1, 2, 3, 4 piece free. and baby like it. But well case one case free. Tutu therefore go follow hingama jehuma. Baby like pena korama.
Tirag postpaid and Nangava, Adi like Singapore ga ufar chutting head the column Furset Hodava. Hatar Befrunang Hatar Bege Hurum, Adi Singapore ge Mashur Tantam Balwa Levuma Tuata, Tuata Geterega, Night Safari, River Cruise, Gardens by the Bay, Adi Universal Studio Balwa Levunga Furset. Tirag postpaid and Nangava Singapore ga chutting head the Kolava.
Effects, the mental energizer.
And England need to find a goalkeeper from somewhere. Look at that! He's only won it for them! New hero! Extraordinary!
ವರ ಬಲಾಗೆ ವಿಸ್ನುತರಿಕಮಾಯಕು ಹುವಾಲೆವೆ ಮಿಸಾಫತಕಿ ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾಗೆ ಫರ್ಬದ ಮತೀಗ ಬಂದು ಕುರೆವೆ ಮೀರ್ ಸಾಫತೆ ತಾಜಾ ಕಂಕೆಲ್ಲುವಾನುಲ ವರ ಬಲಾಗೆ ಬಂದು ಕುರುಮಗೆ ಸಬುಂ ಕೊಮ್ಮೆ ಮಿಹಕವೆಸ್ ಅಕ್ಬರ್ ಸಾ ಮೀರುವೆ ಅಕ್ಬರ್ಗಾ ಎವಾ ರೈಟ್ ಕುಲಾಗೆ ಅಸ್ಲಕಿ ಮಿಸಾ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಕೋ ಫ್ರೆಶ್ ಕೋ ಉಪಯುಕ್ತಮಕ್ ಕುರೆವೆ ಮಸಕ್ಕತುಗೆ ನತೀಜಾ ಅಕ್ಬರ್ ಫ್ರೆಶ್ ಅದಿ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಮೀರ್ ಸಾ
Welcome back. You're watching The Fourth Estate with me, Zaishan Ahmed. The MRC is part of a large international humanitarian movement, which is the IFRC. Now, to what extent and in what ways has the IFRC movement impacted Maldivian society?
Maldivian Red Crescent is part of the global Red Cross Red Crescent movement. The IFRC is also one component of it. How it works is there's the federation, the ICRC and the national societies. In each country there is a national society in 189 countries. And to what extent and in ways has the MRC impacted? One of the most important things is the 7 fundamental principles as a movement that we follow and operate with. That is humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, volunteerism, unity and universality. I think it's very important for these values to be, for people to have that spirit during an emergency or even during the peacetime to help those people in need, especially volunteerism and humanity, impartiality and neutrality. So one of the major impacts would be to build that spirit within the communities, and also to have so many volunteers come and help the unity in the country when there is a need for everyone to come together and help address an issue.
Also, speaking about volunteerism, I think it's also worthwhile to note that our country is has a huge young people's population. Our population is very young. Therefore, we see that in our national society we have a lot of young people who are taking part as volunteers. I think that's a very positive and very important message for our community. It is that there are people, especially young people in this country, who are willing to be part of social work, that consider that being part of doing voluntary work and being part of community development, providing assistance to others is an important thing, and it's worth doing that even though they do not get benefits, financial benefits. I think that's a very important message and a very important thing to know as a country.
What should I do if I want to become a member of MRC?
It's a very simple process. We try not to make it as complicated, not to make it complicated. Now, you ask about being a member. Actually, we have two ways to join Maldivian Red Crescent. You can either become a volunteer or you can become a member. Now, which one you become depends on the interest you have or how much you want to engage with the National Society. Membership gives you certain rights, such as being the ability to compete in certain board positions for you. It also gives you the opportunity to express your voices and to steer the organization in a way. Actually, it is part of the governance structure. So you get an opportunity to govern MRC by becoming a member. So in order to become a member, we have an application form. Once you fill up the form, you can submit with an annual membership fee to Maldivian Red Crescent. It can be collected by any of our branches or in the headquarters here in Maldives as well. So that's how you become a member. The other way to join Maldivian Red Crescent is to become a volunteer. Now, volunteerism, I should also mention, membership and volunteerism is actually open to everybody, including foreigners who are working in the country as well. So anybody who is in this community can become part of the Maldivian Red Crescent. Similarly, volunteerism is also open to everybody. In order to become a volunteer, you have to fill up a volunteer form as well, submit it, and based on your interests, based on your skills, based on your availability, we would be in contact with you in terms of how we like to engage you or how you want to be engaged. Volunteerism is actually to be part of the implementation of activities. I think Musliha earlier mentioned about the staff is to volunteers ratio. So if you look at it like that, most of our work is being done, especially at the ground level, at the community level, is done by a lot of hard-working volunteers, and it's a very nice it's a very nice gesture by them towards our communities. And I think it takes a lot of time and effort for them to be part of it. So depending on your interest, depending on your availability, or depending on your skill sets, you can become either join as either a member or a volunteer, or even no, it doesn't stop you from being both at the same time as well. So you'll find a lot of our board members, a lot of our members are also our volunteers in that concept.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, there was a recent water crisis in the capital Malé back in December, and a large number of volunteers took part in the relief efforts to engage in helping the public, providing water bottles and also providing water to houses with limited water supply. Now, how significant was the MRC's role in tackling this crisis of national importance?
The water crisis was one of the main emergency operations that the Maldivian Red Crescent was involved in since we formed, and we played a very key role during the crisis to help the affected population. More than 800 volunteers worked in 6-hour shifts during the whole week, providing assistance in distribution to the Maldivian National Defence Force, and also we worked very closely with the NDMC in planning and identifying issues, and also through the Federation we were getting assistance. For example, drinking water, we brought drinking water and other items that the government was also in need. So we worked with other organizations that were working to help people affected by the water crisis, and it was very like what we talked about earlier about the impact we are having. We saw it during the emergency. More than 500 or so new volunteers came to us during the crisis, and so that spirit is there, and it shows trust in our organization, in MRC, and that we are able to do this. Obviously, this was a very unexpected crisis, so there are a lot of lessons. There are a lot of lessons to be learned, and in the future, we hope to work with this momentum and prepare better for the next time.
Now, as volunteerism is your driving force, what do you do to motivate volunteers to join you, to jump on board the MRC wagon?
It's a very interesting and a very crucial question for us, isn't it? If you look at, just to discuss a little bit of statistics, 5th December of every year is the International Volunteer Day. And this, unfortunately, in a sense, but also in a very positive light, this year's International Volunteer Day also fell into a water crisis in Malé. Our plan was to celebrate the spirit of volunteerism in the country, and it became an opportunity for us to display the spirit of volunteerism. And I think what Muslia said, the fact that over 400 to 500 volunteers, new volunteers, joined the organization and were so engaged that some of them were actually working till early morning, and some of them were actually going home after shift duties late into night. I think that actually gives a very important message to us. Also, what we notice is that over the last 1 year, every year we capture the volunteer time that volunteers spend. And what we found out was that from 2013 November to 2014 November, over the period of the 1 year, there was a contribution of 11,400 hours of volunteer service that was given to Maldives Red Crescent. And the number one volunteer, Mr. Ibrahim Rashid, who was awarded the Volunteer of the Year, actually contributed about 820 hours of volunteer service to this organization. I think that's something that has to definitely be marked and achieved and celebrated. There are many things and many ways in which we do this. The International Volunteer Day is the main one of the main functions where we celebrate this. There is an awarding ceremony based on the volunteer hours that they provide. There are recognition in terms of the special services that were given by the volunteers. This year we celebrated a little bit after the International Volunteer Day, after the water crisis, but also we recognized the effort that were given by the volunteers, the huge number of volunteers who were part of the crisis. It was also a very encouraging and a very celebrative event for us, especially given the fact that His Excellency President Yamin Abdul Qayyum and his cabinet was part of the celebration, awarding the certificates and the awards to our volunteers. And I think that had a very good positive message and a very good value for our volunteers as well. Apart from that, there are other benefits that volunteers get as well, especially when we look at young people. Volunteerism is an opportunity for our youth to be engaged in different kind of activities, especially those volunteers who leave school and who are somewhere in between higher education and just after finishing grade school. It's an opportunity for them to actually engage and do something for our communities and to utilize their time in a more productive and a positive way. It also gives them opportunity to be to get different kind of skills and knowledge. Our volunteers, a lot of our volunteers are trained in certain kind of, for example, community health awareness requires health related community messages that need to be prepared. First aid is one area where the people are trained. So we have first aid master trainers, first aid trainers, and first aiders who are part of volunteers. So you can, depending on your knowledge, your need to engage with the national society, you can actually go on increasing your knowledge as well. Some of our volunteers have been part of international operations as well. This year we actually during the Philippines Typhoon Haiyan, one of our volunteers was deployed, Mr. Musa Shifas, as part of the emergency response team. And his efforts and his contribution to the movement was also celebrated in this event. So there are so many ways in which volunteers get benefit and volunteers can contribute to this organization.
Now, based on your time and experience at MRC, what qualities must the ideal active volunteer possess?
It's a very interesting question, right? I think interest is a very important thing. I would say it all comes down to your interest in doing something good for your fellow people. It is about that spirit of giving, the culture, to establish a culture of giving and providing assistance to people. Now, when you talk about that, you have to then consider a lot of other factors. You have to people with special needs. You have to consider about being impartial. You have to think about being neutral to everybody. Based on, it should be based on how much they need a certain kind of assistance. So I think the most important thing is to be to have that need and that interest, because if you have interest in something, you'll find a way to do that.
Some people believe that volunteerism can be a waste of time and resources at particular incidences. Now, because there are some cases where people have actually faced ridicule or scorn from the public for, being engaged in relief efforts, maybe because there may be some incidences like that you might have been aware of. Are there any incidences like that?
The volunteers of Maldives Red Crescent, as you saw during the water crisis, we have a very positive relationship with the volunteers, and I think generally in the country, volunteerism is supported. And when we speak about parents letting young children go and volunteer, we also had very young, even below 18 children volunteer in this time, and we received a lot of support from their parents as well. And so generally speaking, there is a lot of support, but for anyone, if there is ridicule or if someone feels that way, it's important to remember that there's a lot of things to be gained from volunteering, like Fawaz was speaking, not material gain, but you learn a lot of new skills, team working and working with people, especially for young people. Musa Shifaz, who was deployed to Philippines during Typhoon Haiyan, was just 20 years old last year when he was deployed. And Kofi, a volunteer of the year, Ibrahim Rashid, he goes by the name Kofi. He is actually, what he said during that ceremony was something very important, that now he feels like he is someone important to the community. Like he feels he's making an impact, and that's what drives him. And this is not something anybody would not want, especially young people. So in order to, when you going into your career, your further education, this would be a stepping stone. And also for people who are in their career, wherever you are in the ladder, MRC, there are ways to contribute to MRC.
In addition, I think, volunteerism is not something new in our communities. We are a very volunteer culture, isn't it? Look at the tradition of Maldives. Look at, if you look at our history, our culture, our religion, volunteerism is very much embedded within ourselves. I think even if you look at our past, the things that has happened in our communities in the past, very small activities like, for example, the construction of a dory or a boat, things like that can become a community activity, and nobody actually asks for any kind of financial gain or anything like that. So this is something that we are trying to build upon. We're still talking about the same volunteerism here. Probably the only difference right now is it's a organized thing right now, but it's the same concept, isn't it? So it's still the same values that are there. It's about helping your neighbors. It's also helping your family, your parents. It's about helping your people who are sharing the same community, the same environment with you. So that's the basis of it. So it's not really something that is very new. It's something that is part of our culture and history. Yeah, exactly.
Now, does MRC plan to broaden its range of services in near future?
Well, as we go along, there is always more improvement that is needed. There is more awareness that we have to look into. It's a very challenging world, and things are changing very fast as well. I think the Maldives itself is changing very much as well. The challenges that we faced some 5 to 10 years back are very different to the things that we talk about these days as well. So as a national society, it's very important that these areas of intervention or areas of services that are being given is very needs to be broadened. I think two very important things that would play a role in this would be I mentioned earlier about our strategy, the new strategy that is about to be built. So that would play a very key role in exactly what kind of services or what kind of activities that we'll be running in the future. The second thing is also our work is very much based on community needs. So as I mentioned again earlier, I believe it's the next week that we'll be starting on a vulnerability capacity assessment work, where the community will actually be identifying their issues within the communities. I think these kind of activities will facilitate in making more meaningful and more activities and services that are close to our communities' heart. Definitely our services, our commitment to local and national level disasters and emergencies is there. So we'll be continuing that work as well.
You have made very interesting comments about the work you do at MRC. Now, as a final question, what would be your messages to the public?
I think I think there are three very important messages to be given to the public here. Some of that we have touched on already. The first one is that the Maldivian Red Crescent is not a separate entity. It is part of our community. As being part of our community, it is functioning at our islands. So it's very important for everybody to be part of it, as a member, as a volunteer, or as a supporter in some form. So it's that is one message that has to be there with our public. The second one is Maldivian Red Crescent is an auxiliary to the public authorities. As we mentioned earlier, we work very closely with the government and with the state authorities, and for that work to continue, for us to continue on building that relation and strengthening that is very important for us, to be able to serve our communities in a better way. I'd like to also mention at this point that Muslim mentioned earlier as well, the NDNC, the Ministry of Health, and the MNDF and police services. The service, their contribution to our national society has been huge. And in addition, the island councils and the atoll council. So it's also, I think, an option moment to thank them for their services as well.
Would you like to add to that?
Yes, thank you. So what we want to see in this country is, now we have a national society of our own, Maldivian Red Crescent, and what we want to see in the future and what we would like the public support with is to see a national society that is operating and providing services to the entire territory of the Maldives, and providing relevant and good programs with the community's participation, support from the private sector, other organizations and the public authorities, and also to reach self-sustainability in providing these services.
This is me, Zaisha Nabi, signing off, hoping to return next week to discuss yet another issue of national and social importance. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening.